Hey, thanks so much for tuning into the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth. It is Saturday, and tomorrow marks the start of our 21 days of praying and fasting. I know this week we've been talking about planning, preparing, setting ourselves up for success, talking about biblical examples of praying and fasting, and how, hey, we don't need to pray about it. We just need to do it because God calls us to do it. He commands us to do it. He expects us to pray and fast. Well, today I want to talk about storms because spiritual warfare is a real thing. And when you choose to step out in faith, and when you choose to fast, when you choose to withhold the fleshly desires, the distractions, and you choose to tune into God, guess what? The enemy, Satan, he's not happy, and he's going to try to distract. He's going to try to divert. He's going to try to do whatever he can to put any type of storms in your path to get you distracted and to get you to give up on your commitment to God. Now, I want to give an example here of the disciples, Jesus' close friends here. They found themselves in a storm, and let's find out here what happens and what calms them and gives them peace. In Mark chapter 6, and also too, what doesn't? Mark chapter 6, starting in verse 45. Immediately, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him to Bethsaida. While he dismissed the crowd, after leaving them, he went up to the mountainside to pray. Now, I know all week we've been talking about, praying and fasting, this whole idea. Do you understand here this example? Jesus, he led by example here. He understood the importance of prayer. He understood the importance of solitude and prayer. Do you see it? Here, he left the disciples, he left the crowd, he went over to the mountainside alone to pray. And that's important to recognize. I know that obviously, hey, we're starting our corporate prayer and fast this week. And I encourage you this next Wednesday to join us, as each Wednesday night we will have our corporate prayer and worship time in the sanctuary. And that's all great, but let's not neglect our alone time with God. It is crucial. It's important. We see here Jesus leading by example in Mark chapter 6, verse 46. Later that night, verse 47, the boat was in the middle of the lake, and he was alone on land. He saw the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them. So they found themselves caught in a storm. And a question that for us to ponder, to think about, when Jesus sent them away, when Jesus went out to land, went to the mountainside to pray, do you think that Jesus knew that they were going into a storm? Absolutely. Jesus knows everything. And so Jesus knew that that they were about to go into a storm. Did they know it? No. And that just shows too, for us, we may not know that this next week, the week after, we might be walking into a storm. But guess what? Jesus knows, and he knows exactly what we need. And do you see here, I love this imagery, this wording here. He saw the disciples straining at their oars, meaning that, hey, they're giving all of their might, all of their strength to try to get out of that storm. And guess what? Nothing in their own power was doing anything. And that's so true. I mean, man, we can be here all day talking about that right now, because it's we cannot go into this fast expecting to succeed on our own power. There's no way that we can do that. We need to access the power of the Holy Spirit. Listen to what Jesus does here, and listen to what calms them and gives them peace, because straining at the oars was not giving them any peace and was not getting them anywhere. He saw the disciples strain at their oars because the wind was so strong against them. Shortly before dawn, he went out to them, walking on the lake. This was another example of Jesus walking on water. This isn't Peter here. Peter doesn't go. This is another example of Jesus walking on the water. He was about to pass by them when they saw Jesus walking on the lake, they thought he was a ghost. They cried out because they all saw him and they were terrified. I mean, could you imagine? Somebody walking on water, you'd be a little terrified as well. But immediately, this is where we see where the peace and the calm comes. Immediately, he spoke to them and said, "Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." And that is where we need to put our trust, our dependency, and to access that power, that strength, that courage that only comes through Jesus. And we have access through the power of the Holy Spirit. That's why Jesus says, "It is good. It is good that I go." Because when I go, then I'll send the advocate, I'll send the counselor, I'll send the comforter. We have access to the presence of God through the Holy Spirit. So as we start this 21 days of prayer and fasting collectively as a church, and maybe you've already started and maybe you haven't thought about it, I would encourage you to do something, start something, do something tomorrow. 21 days, sacrifice something, withhold from something of this world, allow it to be a sacrifice, and tune into God and say, "God, this is what I desire. God, I need this area of my life to be rebuilt, this area of my life to be restored," and just see what God does in and through you as you tune out the distractions of this world and tune into his wisdom, tune into his love, tune into his purity. My prayer is that you would experience him in ways that you never have before. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in all week long. Thank you for tuning in today. I want to encourage you to join us tomorrow morning at 10:15 as I will continue this series called Rebuild, as we will dive continuing now into the book of Nehemiah. I'm excited and I'm so encouraged to what God has for me to say. It is such an honor and privilege. We'll be back again on Monday for another daily dose for spiritual growth.